Margaret Davis spent 3 years avoiding mirrors, watching her confidence crumble while her daughter's future mother-in-law, Patricia, the same age, glowed with flawless skin that cost thousands in treatments. Patricia's perfect appearance made Margaret feel invisible, too ashamed to attend her own daughter's wedding events, believing she'd forever be the embarrassing comparison in every photo. But a simple 8 bottle sitting in Margaret's kitchen held a secret that would flip everything upside down in just 6 weeks. Listen to how this grandmother's transformation shocked everyone at the rehearsal dinner and why Patricia's expensive regime couldn't compete with what Margaret discovered. Margaret Davis stood before the bathroom mirror at exactly 6 in the morning when the first rays of dawn sunlight broke through the thin curtains. Her hands trembled, fingers slowly tracing the deep wrinkles around her eyes. Those same lines once called crow's feet, as if that cute nickname could soften reality. But now these weren't feet. These were deep furrows carved into her skin, like cracks in parched earth after a long drought. 68 years old, a number Margaret still couldn't say aloud without an internal shudder. For the past 3 years, she had avoided her reflection the way people avoid painful memories. She had learned to brush her teeth while looking away, apply minimal makeup almost by touch, walk quickly past store windows to avoid accidentally catching her silhouette in the glass. But this morning, something made her stop and look. Really look. The wrinkles had multiplied like cracks in aging porcelain. That same china set passed down through her family for generations, until one day it shattered into pieces. Her skin sagged along her jawline, creating soft folds that pulled her face downward, as if gravity had doubled its force specifically for her. Margaret raised her hand and gently pulled the skin at her temples. For a moment she appeared in the mirror, that woman she used to be 15 years ago. But the second she released her grip, the years returned with crushing weight. She felt like a stranger in her own body. When had this happened? When had she stopped recognizing herself? There was no single moment, no dramatic transformation. It was a slow erosion, like water wearing away, stone imperceptible day by day, devastating when measured across years. Her daughter Sarah was getting married in 2 months, 8 weeks, 56 days. Margaret had counted them obsessively since the invitation arrived, each number feeling like a countdown to her own humiliation. The invitation sat on her nightstand, cream-colored cardstock with elegant gold lettering. Beautiful, perfect, terrifying. Every time Margaret looked at it, a wave of shame crashed over her so powerfully it left her breathless. She would pick it up with trembling fingers, read Sarah's name paired with her fiancé Michael's, see the date and venue, and immediately her mind would conjure the same nightmare scenario. Standing in the reception hall, surrounded by wedding guests, next to Sarah's future mother-in-law, Patricia Morrison. Patricia. The name alone made Margaret's stomach clench. Patricia was 67, 1 year younger than Margaret, but looked like she had discovered the secret to reversing time itself. In every photograph Sarah showed her, Patricia radiated youth. Her skin was smooth and luminous, catching light like polished marble. No sagging, no deep wrinkles, no age spots dotting her cheeks and forehead like dark constellations. Margaret had studied those photos with the intensity of a detective examining evidence. She zoomed in on Patricia's face during video calls, searching desperately for some flaw, some sign of mortality. But there was nothing. Patricia's skin stretched tight across high cheekbones. Her smile revealed perfect white teeth. Her neck showed no loose skin, no horizontal lines that Margaret tried unsuccessfully to hide with scarves and high collars. How was it possible? They were practically the same age. They had lived through the same decades, breathed the same air, existed under the same sun. Yet Patricia looked like she could be Margaret's daughter, not her contemporary. The injustice of it burned in Margaret's chest like acid. Margaret had tried everything. God knows she had tried. Her bathroom cabinet had become a graveyard of abandoned hope half-empty jars of department store creams that promised miracles in elegant packaging. She remembered each purchase vividly. The anti-aging serum that cost $90, nearly half her monthly pension from the bookstore. The clerk had been so convincing, demonstrating on her own flawless young skin, explaining how the revolutionary peptide complex would restructure collagen at the cellular level. Margaret had applied it religiously for 6 weeks, morning and night, following the instructions printed in tiny font on the box. She had stared at her reflection each day, searching desperately for changes. Maybe her skin looked slightly more hydrated, Perhaps the lines seemed fractionally softer, but deep down she knew she was lying to herself. The wrinkles remained. The sagging continued. The only thing that changed was her bank account. Then came the dermatologist visits. 3 different doctors over 2 years. Each appointment cost $150, money Margaret could barely afford on her part-time salary. Each doctor had studied her face with clinical detachment, pulling her skin this way and that, discussing volume loss and dermal thinning as if they were discussing a broken appliance that needed repair. They offered solutions, of course, expensive solutions. Injections that would cost thousands of dollars and need repeating every few months. Laser treatments requiring multiple sessions, chemical peels, microneedling. Each procedure came with glossy brochures showing before and after photos of women who looked reborn. But when Margaret asked about the total cost, her heart sank. These treatments weren't for people like her, working-class women living on modest pensions, choosing between skincare and groceries. She left each appointment feeling smaller, more defeated, more hopeless. The message was clear. Beauty, youth, confidence. These things belonged to those who could afford them. Margaret couldn't, so she would have to accept her fate. Nothing worked. As months passed, the wrinkles deepened, carving themselves more permanently into her face. The age spots darkened, spreading across her cheeks and forehead like spilled ink on paper. Her confidence didn't just crack, it crumbled completely, disintegrating into dust that the slightest breeze could scatter. She worked part-time at Henderson's Books, a cozy independent bookstore downtown where she had been employed for 12 years. Once Margaret had loved this job, she knew every section intimately, could recommend the perfect novel for any customer, took pride in helping people discover new authors. But lately something had shifted. Customers' eyes would skip over her, their gazes sliding past as if she were part of the furniture visible, but not worth acknowledging. Young mothers pushing strollers would walk right past Margaret to ask her younger colleague Jennifer for help finding children's books. Teenagers looking for college reading lists would wait for Tom, the 20-something assistant manager, even when Margaret stood closer and clearly available. At first, Margaret told herself she was imagining it, but the pattern repeated too consistently to deny. Age had made her invisible, not just older, actually invisible, as if she had faded into the background of life itself, no longer worth seeing or hearing. The incident last Tuesday had crystallized everything. A man roughly her age, maybe 70, had walked in with his wife. They were looking for a book about Italian cooking. Margaret approached them with a smile, ready to help. She knew exactly which section to check, had just shelved a beautiful new Italian cookbook the day before. "Can I help you find something?" she had asked pleasantly. The man looked right through her, his eyes focused somewhere past her left shoulder, as if she were made of glass. "Is there someone else who can help us?" he asked, his tone not rude but casually dismissive. "Someone more knowledgeable about cooking books?" His wife had at least looked embarrassed, touching his arm gently. But the damage was done. Margaret had stepped aside, feeling heat rise in her cheeks, and watched as Jennifer's sweet, 24-year-old Jennifer, who had worked there for only 6 months, led them to the exact section Margaret had been about to suggest. That night, Margaret sat alone in her small, one-bedroom apartment, the silence pressing against her like a physical weight. The apartment had felt cozy once, but lately it seemed to be shrinking, the walls closing in slowly but inexorably. She made herself a cup of tea that grew cold while she sat on the worn couch, phone in hand, scrolling through Sarah's social media posts. Photo after photo filled the screen. Patricia at the bridal shower, wearing a cream-colored dress that hugged her slim figure, her skin glowing under soft lighting. Patricia at the dress fitting, standing beside Sarah, both women laughing, both looking radiant and beautiful. Patricia at the venue walkthrough, gesturing animatedly, her face lit with excitement and joy. In every image, Patricia's skin looked flawless. Not perfect in an artificial, overdone way, but naturally beautiful. The kind of beauty that comes from good genes, expensive treatments, and a life unburdened by financial stress. Her smile was confident, easy, the smile of a woman who had never questioned her worth or worried about becoming invisible. Margaret's chest tightened with a familiar ache that had become her constant companion. It started as a small knot beneath her breastbone and spread outward, making it hard to breathe, hard to think, hard to exist. She had stopped attending Sarah's wedding events, making excuses that sounded plausible, but fooled no one. "I have to work that day, sweetie." I'm not feeling well, just a little under the weather. You go ahead without me. I'll catch the next one. But the truth was simpler and infinitely more painful. Margaret couldn't bear to stand next to Patricia. She couldn't endure seeing the comparison in everyone's eyes. The subtle glances that flickered between the two mothers-in-law, the unspoken questions about how two women the same age could look so different. Most of all, she couldn't stand the thought of watching Sarah's expression when her daughter realized that her mother looked old enough to be Patricia's mother instead of her contemporary. Margaret's phone buzzed in her hand, making her jump. A text from Sarah appeared on the screen. Mom, please come to the rehearsal dinner next week. It won't be the same without you. I need you there. Tears blurred Margaret's vision immediately, hot and stinging. She blinked rapidly, trying to clear them, but they kept coming. She wanted to be there. God, how she wanted to be there. She wanted to stand proudly beside her daughter, to feel beautiful and confident again, to participate fully in this momentous occasion without shame or fear. But every time she imagined walking into that rehearsal dinner, her mind created the same devastating scene. The moment of arrival, all heads turning, conversations pausing, the pitying glances from Sarah's friends, the whispered comments behind hands. Is that Sarah's mother? She looks so much older than Patricia. The weight of her appearance crushing her spirit, pressing down until she wanted to disappear entirely. Margaret closed her phone and walked to the kitchen, her movements slow and defeated, each step requiring conscious effort. Her body felt heavy, as if her bones had turned to lead. On the counter sat a bottle of olive oil she used for cooking extra virgin. Cold-pressed, purchased months ago from the grocery store. She stared at it absently, her mind elsewhere, replaying every failed attempt to reclaim her appearance. Every expensive cream that did nothing. Every doctor's appointment that ended with treatments she couldn't afford. Every disappointing morning when her reflection showed no improvement. Every moment of lost hope adding to the accumulated weight of despair. Margaret had given up. At 68, she had accepted certain truths as immutable facts. Her reflection would forever be a source of pain. Invisibility was her new normal. The wedding would be another reminder of everything time had taken from her. Beauty, confidence, relevance, presence. The bottle of olive oil gleamed under the kitchen light, ordinary and unremarkable. Just another object in a life that had grown smaller with each passing year. It held no promises, offered no solutions, represented nothing but what it was. Cooking oil, bought for $5, destined to flavor salads and sauté vegetables. Margaret turned away from it, switched off the light, and walked slowly to her bedroom. Tomorrow would be another day of avoiding mirrors, feeling invisible, counting down to a wedding where she would stand in Patricia's shadow, a faded version of the woman she used to be. She didn't know that everything was about to change. She didn't know that salvation waited patiently in that ordinary bottle, requiring nothing more than an open mind and consistent effort. She didn't know that in just a few weeks she would look in the mirror and recognize herself again. But tonight Margaret knew only defeat, and that was enough to break her heart. 3 days later, Margaret sat in the bookstore's break room, mindlessly scrolling through her phone during lunch. A video appeared, an elderly woman demonstrating skincare. Margaret's thumb hovered, ready to scroll past. She had seen countless promises before, all ending in disappointment. But something made her pause. The woman on screen was 82 years old, yet her skin glowed with remarkable vitality. "My name is Elena," the woman said warmly, her voice carrying genuine kindness. "Many ask about my skin. For years I wasted money on expensive creams and treatments. Nothing worked. Then I visited my grandmother's village in Greece. She was 97 with beautiful skin. Her secret? Pure, cold-pressed olive oil." Margaret leaned closer. Olive oil, the same bottle sitting on her kitchen counter. Elena demonstrated her method carefully. Cleanse the face thoroughly. Warm 3 drops of oil between your palms. Press gently into skin using upward motions. Massage in circles around the eyes. Let it absorb completely overnight. Patience is the most important ingredient, Elena emphasized. This isn't magic, it's a journey. Then Elena showed before and after photos, 6 weeks apart. The transformation seemed impossible. Deep wrinkles softened, age spots faded, skin glowing with health. Yet the photos were clearly authentic. Margaret's hands shook as she saved the video. She had been burned by false promises too many times. But something about Elena felt different. No product links, no sales pitch. Just an elderly woman sharing something that worked, expecting nothing in return. That evening, Margaret stood in her kitchen, holding the olive oil bottle with new eyes. What did she have to lose? Pride? Gone long ago. Money? This bottle was already purchased. Hope? That had died months back. Yet something stirred in her chest, a tiny flutter of possibility she tried to suppress. What else can I do? She whispered to the empty kitchen. At 9:30, Margaret stood before her bathroom sink. She rewatched Elena's video, memorizing each step. Then with trembling hands, she began. She cleansed her face thoroughly, washing away the day and accumulated disappointment. 3 drops of oil in her palm. She rubbed her hands together, warming it to body temperature, then pressed her palms gently against her face. The oil felt rich and soothing, absorbing faster than expected. Her skin drank it in hungrily. Margaret massaged it around her eyes, across her forehead, along her cheeks, down to her jaw. Within minutes, the thick feeling disappeared, leaving only soft, moisturized skin. Margaret went to bed telling herself to expect nothing, but her heart betrayed her with that whisper. What if this time is different? Morning brought harsh reality. Her reflection showed the same face, same wrinkles, same age spots. Nothing had changed overnight. Disappointment settled in her chest, but lighter somehow. She had expected this. So that night, Margaret repeated the ritual, and the next night, and the next. 1 week passed mechanically. She stopped checking for changes, stopped hoping. It became routine, nothing more. Then came day 14. Margaret was washing her hands in the bookstore bathroom when her colleague Linda walked in and stopped abruptly. Margaret, are you using a new moisturizer? Your skin looks different. Margaret's heart pounded. What? Something's changed. You look softer, more hydrated. Whatever you're doing, keep doing it. The moment her shift ended, Margaret rushed home. She flipped on every bathroom light and looked. The deep lines around her eyes seemed softer. The forehead creases appeared less pronounced. Her skin had a subtle glow she hadn't seen in years. Not dramatic, but undeniable. Margaret touched her face with trembling fingers. It felt firmer, more elastic, alive. Tears filled her eyes, not despair this time, but fragile hope. She continued with renewed dedication. Each drop of oil became a prayer. Each night an act of faith. By week 4, customers began asking for her help directly. Margaret started catching her reflection in store windows and didn't look away. The age spots had faded. Her skin felt resilient. She recognized herself again. 6 weeks after starting, Margaret stood before her mirror on a Saturday morning. The transformation stole her breath. Wrinkles hadn't disappeared but had softened dramatically. Her skin looked plump, hydrated, glowing. The sagging jawline had tightened. She looked like herself from 15 years ago. That afternoon, Sarah called about the rehearsal dinner. "I'll be there, sweetheart," Margaret said without hesitation. "I wouldn't miss it." Sarah's stunned silence said everything. Margaret went shopping for a new dress, something she hadn't done in years. In the dressing room under bright lights that once would have horrified her, she smiled. The woman looking back radiated confidence. The rehearsal dinner arrived. Margaret walked into Lorenzo's with her head high, skin glowing, smile genuine. Sarah's jaw dropped. "Mom?" She rushed forward for a tight hug. Over Sarah's shoulder, Margaret saw Patricia standing nearby, her expression cycling through confusion, shock, then something darker before composing into politeness. "Mrs. Davis," Patricia said carefully, "you look different. Did you have work done?" Margaret smiled. "Just olive oil, applied correctly every night for 6 weeks." Patricia's perfectly maintained face registered disbelief. "That's impossible. I spend thousands on treatments." "And yet," Margaret said gently, "here we are." Throughout the evening, people approached Margaret with compliments and questions. But the moment that mattered came when Sarah pulled her aside. "Mom, you look beautiful. But more than that, you look happy, like yourself again. I've missed you so much." Sarah hugged her tightly. "I'm so happy you came. I was afraid I was losing you." Margaret's eyes filled with tears of joy, redemption, reclaimed life. "I'm here, sweetheart. I'm really here." The olive oil hadn't just transformed her skin. It had given her back something more precious. The courage to be seen, the strength to stand proudly beside her daughter, the belief that she deserved to take up space in the world again. At 68, Margaret had learned that sometimes the most powerful solutions are the simplest ones. waiting patiently in kitchen cabinets, asking only for consistency and faith. True beauty isn't about erasing every line or competing with others. It's about feeling comfortable in your own skin, having confidence to show up fully in your own life. As she watched Sarah laugh with Michael, Margaret touched her face gently, grateful not just for softer skin, but for the second chance it represented. She had been given her life back, one drop of olive oil at a time.